Hello, and thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. I'm Cody Proctor. Each weekend, we walk you through the headlines from the past week in the Inland Northwest. Let's get started with one of the biggest news stories of the past few days.
Evidence of an alternate suspect is something Brian Cobberger's defense attorneys have mentioned on and off for months now. Right now, they're preparing to present this information at a hearing in June. Now, the judge asked the defense for two things. He wants to see evidence supporting these allegations and why it should be admissible. The judge called much of what they've submitted as objectionable. The defense has 1 week to provide the court with the requested information. After the state responds, the evidence will be discussed in a hearing on June 18th. Former Idaho Attorney General David Leroy believes addressing this now is a step the judge is likely taking to avoid a delay in the trial.
Well, the judge is requiring this activity and putting a deadline on it so that he and the rest of the world can be assured that there won't be any delay in the trial. He's not going to allow speculation about speculation. If this evidence is teed up, ready to go and admissible, we'll know that well before jury selection. And if it's not, it won't be a factor in the trial.
If the evidence is admissible and there is some persuasive value, the judge won't stop it from being presented at trial. Now, Leroy says in this case, it comes down to having specific evidence that somebody else was in or around the premises at the critical time, something he says hasn't been brought forward just yet. Amanda Broley, KREM 2 News.
Cody Rencurl spent the weekend here at the Kootenai County Jail as a fugitive from Montana. We've now learned he was caught here in Coeur d'Alene buying a pizza. KREM 2 News obtained court documents detailing how Rencurl came to be a homicide suspect and how investigators used the victim's debit card to track him down. A Hill County District Court affidavit shows Rencurl quickly became the suspect after a woman's house cleaner found her dead in her Havre townhome Wednesday. The cleaner told Havre police victim Dixie Schroeder was in the process of breaking up with Rencurl, but he was still living in her basement. Police determined he'd taken Schroeder's car May 2nd. A neighbor's security camera caught him moving things out of the townhome before driving away. Havre police were able to track Rencurl to Coeur d'Alene through Schroeder's debit card. They say he used it to buy fast food and had pizza delivered to a Coeur d'Alene hotel. And that's when Coeur d'Alene police and the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office stepped in, keeping an eye on him until he was arrested Thursday. The Sheriff's Office tells KREM 2 they found writings in the hotel room that hinted Rencurl was planning an active shooter situation to have law enforcement kill him. Rencurl waived extradition last week. He is expected to be transported back to Montana to face a charge of deliberate homicide. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
In a unanimous vote tonight, Spokane City Council members agreed to make a traffic change at a downtown Spokane intersection. At Monroe and Riverside, drivers will no longer be allowed to turn right on red, a change welcomed by Jordan Spooner.
I feel like it kind of slows traffic down because a lot of people aren't from here, so they don't really know it very well.
Council members agree. Paul Dillon says the intersection is uniquely dangerous compared to others.
That intersection from Monroe along the Riverside is one of the most problematic intersections, I honestly think, in the whole state.
But council didn't stop there. City Council's passing more than one resolution regarding traffic safety here at Riverside Avenue, and one of those includes the relocation of one notable historical statue right there of John Monaghan. The Spokane Historical Society writes Monaghan was in the first graduating class at Gonzaga University and the first person in Washington State to attend the Naval Academy. He died while fighting in a battle just before the 20th century, and a statue of him's been at Riverside Avenue since 1906. However, some community members say it also perpetuates racism. The plaque below the statue refers to Samoan people as savage foes.
Several organizations I've been party with have discussed taking it down ourselves because of that offensive statement about Samoan people.
In another vote tonight, council decided to relocate the statue, not because of the words written on the plaque, but because they say its location poses a traffic safety concern since it's in the public right-of-way. As a result, the monument will be moved to Monaghan's Descendants Mausoleum in Fairmount Memorial Park.
We acknowledge the shared history from different perspectives without erasing anyone's history.
But this decision had its opposition, including from Councilmember Michael Cathcart.
For me, if you're going to do something of substantial like this, to move a monument that has been in place for over 100 years, you should actually have much more hearing and thoughtfulness around the process for that.
With both resolutions now passed, folks like Spooner hope Council President Betsy Wilkerson's words remain true, and while its place will change, its historical significance will live on.
I mean, I don't think they can get rid of it because that's history, you know? So, but I mean, like, I think it'd be cool. I don't know, you'll see a lot of difference around here.
The potential new attraction would actually start here in this area of the Place of Truth's Plaza, which is actually right behind the downtown public library. Now, it will take people through the zip line underneath the bridge and end here in this general area on the shore of Red Band Park. A project in the works for decades.
Yeah, I'd heard about plans maybe a couple years ago.
Has community members
I think it would be great for families and people
excited about the future for downtown Spokane.
Really, this project couldn't be done without everyone in the community saying yes.
Riverfront Park Director Jonathan Moog has been working with the city since 2022 to bring this idea of a zipline attraction next to the Spokane River to life.
Adding an attraction like this helps not only boost our local economy, but it brings people, our neighbors, our community downtown to shop at local businesses and restaurants. It's a win for the community, and that's what I'm hoping we see out of this.
Now, alongside local zipline company Micah Moon Zip Tours, who was chosen after a nationwide search to design, build, and operate the attraction, the project is on the right track. Although Drew Stewart, the owner of Micah Moon Zip Tours, says it wouldn't have come together without the input of stakeholders.
Everyone's been able to put in their 2 cents on how they think the project should be done and also kind of meet the overarching goal, which is to help stimulate growth in the downtown Spokane area.
On Thursday, the county hearing examiner approved the permits for the project with certain conditions, like the contractor needs to follow shoreline provisions, create a stormwater pollution prevention plan, and notify the Spokane Tribe of Indians if any artifacts or human remains are found during construction of the project.
Yeah, I think the number one question would be once you get down, how do you get back up?
Stewart says the current plan is for the zip line to cost around $30 and take around 30 minutes to complete.
Upon arrival in Red Band Park, we have electric vehicles, basically golf carts, that will be picking up people at the end and then going up Main Avenue back to the starting position.
To be clear, despite the county hearing examiner's approval, it is ultimately up to the city to decide on approval. A decision is expected to be made around the middle of June. Now, if approved, the goal is to have the zipline up and running by late summer or early fall to run all year long. Christian Garza, KREM 2 News.
As we go to break, here's a check of your weekend forecast. Welcome back to the KREM 2 News Week in Review. It's been a busy week across the Inland Northwest, and we want to help catch you up on some stories you might have missed.
Washington's hospital leaders are declaring an emergency as Congress contemplates billions of dollars in Medicaid reform. Many Republicans say will reduce waste and fraud.
We're not cutting Medicaid. Stop buying that. This bill just takes money out of the system. It just makes cuts.
Washington's Hospital Association says the truth is hospitals and healthcare providers stand to lose millions every year.
And at the moment, our best guess, which we actually think is kind of low, is about $700 million.
A big chunk of that could come from what WSHA says is a proposed 10% cut to any state, giving Medicaid coverage to undocumented immigrants.
Essentially a penalty for a policy choice.
The association estimates that alone could equal a $400 to $500 million loss every year.
It's substantial.
President and CEO Cassie Sauer says Eastern Washington could be hit hard, especially in its rural communities, with more Medicaid recipients than on the west side.
It is not outside the realm of possibility to see a whole hospital closure or a really significant shrinking.
She points to King County's Valley Medical Center, which closed a handful of clinics and laid off employees. It's a roadmap other hospitals may take, WSHA says, to make up those monetary losses, slashing services like physical therapy, labor and delivery, or mental health care. They say will have a ripple effect on virtually every Washingtonian.
If you take any of those beds out of the system, you're squeezing it for the entire state.
If you lose the hospital, you kill the town. Businesses will not locate there. If you have 100 miles to drive for healthcare, people don't live there.
Shannon Moudy, KREM 2 News.
Well, the group behind this bill, Safe Street for Families, tells me that this will allow anti-speeding technology right inside your vehicle to prevent dangerous speeds and curb fatal collisions.
The numbers tell a sad story. The Washington Traffic Safety Commission reports fatal crashes involving speeding drivers increased by nearly 40% between 2019 and 2023.
Intelligent speed assistant devices for drivers who are found guilty of driving in a dangerous manner.
This new legislation allows intelligence-assisted technology placed in vehicles will monitor the driver's speed and prohibit the vehicle from going over the local speed limit. Those behind the law tell me that this is for drivers that already have reckless driving records and are nearing the suspension of their license.
This legislation was inspired by a crash where 4 individuals, including 3 children, were killed when their car was struck by a driver going 112 miles per hour.
As summer season is known for construction season, we asked local officials from the Washington Department of Transportation how this law will keep streets safer.
I don't think people realize how close our crews are working to the side of the road when people are going 60, 70 miles an hour. I mean, sometimes it's a foot, it's inches, and people going 60, 70 miles an hour, if they're an inch to the right and they hit that work zone, that could be somebody's life.
WashDOT reports over the years they have had over 60 employees killed in work zone collisions, prompting that safe speed on roadways is essential, especially as WashDOT staff is working to improve safety for the public.
Any reason we can give the public to slow down, whether it be in a work zone or just following the posted speed limit, we're going to reiterate that message.
Washington now is the second state to enact this type of legislation, following Virginia, and Georgia is just a few weeks behind, all in the efforts to create safer streets. I'm reporting here in Spokane, Rican Gallo, KREM 2 News.
Hello, I'm Cody Proctor. Thank you for joining us here on KREM 2 News. You're watching the Week in Review, where we bring you some of the biggest news stories of the past week.
We are simply saying that the revenue needs to follow the jurisdiction that's providing the service.
That's Spokane Mayor Lisa Brown back in January, advocating for fair funds for emergency services among the city of Spokane, the county, and Spokane Regional Emergency Communications, or SHREC, through House Bill 1258. The bill writes funds be based on on-call volume versus population. SHREC Board Chair and Spokane County Fire District 3 Fire Chief Cordy Rohrbach says that wasn't always the case.
The methodology really had funds coming from the county going back into the city, so that was really the point of contention.
Both he and Mayor Brown support the bill becoming law. Rohrbach says it creates 2 important new distinctions in emergency funding.
Make it 1, equitable for county and city, and 2, allow that to occur at the local level.
Now it's up to the city, county, and SHREC to discuss how funding will look.
It brings the decision for apportionment back to the local level. And essentially what it says is, hey, both parties need to come together and make an agreement on equitable apportionment.
So what does this mean? Either the city's fire department continues working with SHREC for a regional center, or they leave SHREC and separate funds based on city and county needs. Spokane Fire has worked with the office since 2022. No matter the outcome, Rohrbach says the situation won't impact emergency response, whether from the city or Spokane County.
All agencies are vested in, delivering top quality, top tier 911 emergency services to the community. So I think in either event, it works out, but more to come as far as the actual outcome.
Still, no signature from Governor Bob Ferguson on just how much school districts like Spokane's could be working with. But no matter the dollar amount,
what we've heard is the governor is evaluating it line by line.
SPS Superintendent Dr. Adam Swinyard says it won't be enough to compete with inflation. That pesky line item keeps eating into district dollars, meaning SPS has had to contract its $500 million budget by $15 to $30 million every year.
Well, that's really our long-range plan, is to keep the percentage of that change from one year to the next to as modest of a level as possible.
Part of that is adjusting along with attrition. The district loses around 150 employees annually, mostly due to retirement. That means staffers, including teachers, are reassigned or transferred, sometimes to different schools.
The numbers we're seeing this year are comparable to the last several years.
Part of the transfers are due to demand for certain classes.
Our courses in career and technical education have exploded. In things like world language, we've seen those decline.
The district's also looking to other cost-cutting measures, like consolidating its admin offices and the community school into one new building in the university district. Swinyard says the move will save the district $300,000 a year and bring in $5 million. One move they haven't made, though, and don't plan to for the foreseeable future, Swinyard says, is cutting jobs.
We're really proud that our long-term fiscal planning in Spokane has allowed us to avoid layoffs, unfortunately, unlike other school districts in our region.
Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
Welcome back. Before we wrap up this edition of the KREM 2 News Week in Review, we want to remind you that you can get the latest newscasts and weather forecasts anytime on KREM 2 Plus. It is free to watch and download for Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV. Now here's one more story before we go.
Yeah, well, this is one of the facilities that's going to be offering some of those swim lessons that we mentioned, and it won't be long before water parks like this one are packed up. But according to the CDC, ahead of that time, we know that the leading cause of death for children ages 1 through 4 is drowning. With those statistics in mind, we also do know that drowning is preventable with swim lessons such as the one that Spokane County will be offering. So those sessions will be from June 9th until August 14th. And I also got a chance to speak with a local swim instructor about a few reminders. She mentioned the 5 layers of protection that begins with barriers and alarms for some of those pools you have at your homes. Supervision, of course, water competency, that means learning how to swim. Life jackets when you're out on lakes and rivers, and then also emergency prep, knowing who to call in the event of an emergency, also knowing CPR or who to direct to do that CPR. And of course, being safe out on the water that spans across all ages.
You'll feel more comfortable letting them go to a friend's pool. You'll be more comfortable them going with someone to a lake. Just that step of learning how to swim gives them a step up. And actually, swimming lessons gives your child an 88% chance of survival, just swimming lessons alone.
So again, swimming lessons are now available for registration with Spokane County. If you're interested in signing up, we do have a link for registration on our website. You can find that at krem.com. You can also find that information on the KREM 2 app as well. Again, with those warmer days ahead of us, just remember to be as safe as possible when in or around a body of water. For now, reporting in Spokane County, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
Thank you for joining us for the KREM 2 News Week in Review. Keep it here on KREM 2 for more news throughout the weekend. I'm Cody Proctor. Thanks for watching.